You ever been through trials and wondered why God has allowed you to go through those trials? Well, today I want to give you 3 reasons why God allows us to go through trials that may not always be fun. So stay tuned. Here we go. Reason number 1, God is training you. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6, it says, "My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens and scourges every son whom he receives." So this is wonderful news. Just as we as parents train our children, and sometimes we need to put in corrective plans, and sometimes we need to let them go through a little bit of trial and affliction because we want them to learn certain lessons, so God allows us to go through some of these trials in order that we may learn some of these lessons. There's many Bible verses that relate to this. In Romans 5, verses 3-4, it says, "And not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character hope." So God is working to develop in us a character fit for heaven. Point number 2 I want to make is God has a plan. Sometimes when you're in the fiery furnace, it feels like when you're going through those trials, you wonder, where is God? Doesn't God see my affliction? Doesn't he see the problems that I have? And I want to remind you, friends, God has a beautiful plan for you. Jeremiah 29:11, beautiful verse worth memorizing. It says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." Isn't that wonderful? So sometimes when you feel abandoned, remember, God has wonderful, beautiful thoughts towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give us hope and a wonderful future. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6 says, "Being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun in you a good work will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ." So God knows exactly what he's doing. Even though to us, we can't see the end from the beginning, God has a plan, and we need to just trust in his plan. And point number 3 is your trials may be preparing you for a greater work. So God may have a wonderful work for you in store. And unless we pass these certain tests and training points, we may not be ready to take on that work. So God is working on our character and developing us to prepare us for a greater work that he has for us. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." So God is preparing us and training us for this wonderful work. James 1 verses 2-4 says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you might be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." Daniel, when he was taken as a teenager, as a captive, he was not going to compromise his beliefs. But we see how God prepared Daniel for a wonderful work of being an advisor to multiple kings. And then probably the example that is the most moving to me in the Bible, which is the story of Joseph, how he was mistreated by his brothers and they tried to kill him and they sold him off as a slave unfairly over and over. He was unfairly imprisoned, but yet Joseph was faithful. All of those trials prepared him for a mighty work, so that we see at the end when he confronts his brothers again in Genesis 50, verse 20, it says, "But as for you," referring to his brothers here, "but as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." So friends, remember these. When you're going through your trials, remember God is training you, God has a plan, and God's got a greater work for you once you get on the other side of those trials. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.